My girlfriend disappeared before I could propose, and 5 years later I found out that she ran off with my younger brother. I'm 29 years old and have been single for the past 5 years because my girlfriend completely disappeared from my life 5 years ago. Since then, I've been single and haven't even tried to talk to any other women because I still hold out hope that she'll come back to me one day. I've been with my girlfriend since the third year of high school, so I was with her for almost 6 years before she disappeared. We stayed together throughout college, even though we could only see each other once or twice a month due to the distance. At least in my mind, I got along well with my girlfriend's friends. On my 24th birthday, I planned to propose to her in front of our family and friends, but the day before my birthday, she really disappeared. She said she would be home from work late, so I waited all night, but she never came back. I made countless phone calls and sent at least 100 text messages, but there was no response. I even tried contacting her friends and family, but they ignored me. Our mutual friends had no idea where she might be, and some just told me to forget about her, so even if they knew, they wouldn't tell me. I couldn't find any of her social media accounts either, as if she had just disappeared overnight. I still don't know if she knew that I was going to propose to her the next day, or if her disappearance just happened to coincide with it, but the fact remains that she disappeared, and there was nothing I could do about it. I even considered reporting her missing to the police, but changed my mind at the last minute because she wasn't missing, she just didn't want to be found. I tried to find her by creating fake accounts on social media under different names, but to no avail. She had probably either deleted her account or created a new one under a different name, just like I had. Either way, she was untraceable, and I eventually had to give up, because even though I knew that she didn't want me to find her for some reason, it was exhausting for me to do my best to find her. I honestly believed that she was happy with me, and she did behave well when we were together. So instead of moving on, I chose to wait for her to come back, and if she didn't come back to me, then at least she could explain what went wrong and I could get some answers. I did try to get involved with a few other women and went on a few dates, but whenever I went out with someone, I would think about my ex-girlfriend, so I stopped because it was too painful for me. For 4 whole years, I didn't agree to or invite anyone on a date because I couldn't. I could have been fine, but every time I considered dating, the face of my ex-girlfriend would appear in my mind like a warning sign, so I gave up for 5 years. I kept waiting for her. I know it's futile, but I didn't know what else to do. I started therapy 3 years ago, which helped me deal with my feelings and cope with the situation in a healthy way, so I don't always mope or work, but I wouldn't say I've forgotten her. I know it sounds pathetic, but I really was serious about her, and I can't believe she just disappeared without an explanation. But 2 weeks ago, I overheard a conversation between my 33-year-old brother and my 62-year-old mother when we were visiting her. My brother doesn't live here. He moved to Canada when he was 22 for work and has lived there ever since. He comes back twice a year for a few weeks, but that's about it. This time he's been here for at least a month because our mother is very ill. She's been diagnosed with a heart condition and it's serious. So, although my brother was supposed to go back 2 weeks ago, he decided to stay. My brother and I have always had a good relationship, but we're not close per se, mainly because of the distance. We were friends when we were younger, but then he went to college and we lost touch, and then he went to Canada and built a life there, while I stayed here, so we didn't have many opportunities to reconnect. But since he's been back, we've been getting along well, even if it's just for my mother's sake. Last week, I went to my mother's house to bring my father some soup, because he said he was coming home late and I had a spare key so my mother wouldn't have to come to the door. I went in quietly and was about to go into my mother's room to check on her, but when I heard my mother and brother talking about my ex-husband in there, I froze. My ex-husband has a very unique name, and we didn't know anyone else with it, so I was sure that my mother was asking about her. She asked her brother when he was going to bring her and the kids here, because she was old and sick now and wanted to see them. My brother told her that they had been trying to bring them here, but didn't want me to know because it was too risky, so they hadn't flown over yet. As soon as my brother mentioned that they wanted to avoid me, I was sure. A few seconds later, I was convinced that he was talking about my ex-boyfriend. I stood there silently because I couldn't understand what I had heard. I left without saying a word. When I got home, I decided to log into a fake account I had created 5 years ago and do some research, just to confirm what I already knew. I had been searching social media for my ex-girlfriend's name, but never for my brother, because he told me he hated social media and wasn't active anywhere. I never thought he could be lying, because I never thought he could be connected to my ex-girlfriend. I tried to find him using his real name, but failed, so I used the nickname my parents gave him. Fortunately, he had a public Instagram account with about 200 followers. He must have blocked me because I had never seen the account before. I browsed the account and found several photos of him with my ex-girlfriend and a child who looked exactly like my ex-girlfriend except for the eyes, which looked like my brother's. I think I must have sat there crying for an hour, because she was there the whole time. Everyone knew, but they helped my brother cover it up instead of telling me the truth. For 5 years, my own family has been lying to me, even though they knew where my girlfriend was. The thought of it makes me sick. In the first few days of my heartbreak, I cried to my parents for comfort, and they had always known and never told me, which made me sick. As for my brother, I can't even believe he had the nerve to take the life that was supposed to be mine and then come back here and pretend to be my friend. Ever since then, I've felt sick every year and just wanted to cut ties with them for good. I don't want to see any of their faces again, but before I do, I decided to leave them a message because I'm not going to disappear like my ex did. I want them to know that I know what they did and I will never forgive them. They ruined my life, and for 5 years they refused to do anything to make it right. Oh, and I also found my ex's account that was used for my brother's account. She used a completely different name, so I never found her before. Funny thing is, it was one of the nicknames I gave her when we first started dating, but she told me she hated it, so I stopped using it, and I never even thought to search for it. I sent the same message to everyone, just one line, and I told them I knew what they did, and I just wanted to know why, because that's all I wanted to know. These people are my family, my home, and they were supposed to help me in my time of need, but instead they chose to hide it from me, lie to me, and treat me like an idiot. I thought that texting them would make me feel better, but it didn't, so I called a few high school friends, went to the nearest bar, got drunk, and had to be carried home. I was so upset that I didn't go to work for 2 days. It wasn't just a hangover or a bender, it was pain and betrayal. 5 years have passed and no one thinks they owe me the truth, an explanation, or some form of closure. Thinking about it all drove me crazy, so I didn't check the messages my family had replied to me with, and I didn't even check the messages my ex-girlfriend had sent me on Instagram, because I didn't have her number. But she didn't reply to me until yesterday, when she sent 2 messages explaining that she was married and even had a child. So, I found her account and messaged her. It was really inappropriate. She told me that she didn't need to explain or apologize to me, and neither did my brother, so I should forget about her. She also told me that if 5 years isn't enough time for me to get over her, then maybe there's a problem with me and not her. Instead of acting like a weirdo and texting her to ask why she left me, I should have checked myself because you obviously have a problem, she told me. I don't know what I was expecting, but it certainly wasn't this. I definitely didn't expect her to get so angry at me because I just asked her for an explanation, that's all. I wasn't asking her to come back to me because I know she's happy now and I want that for myself, so I asked her a very simple question so I could move on. I hadn't considered the implications of this, and I still don't know if I was really wrong to ask her to explain why she eloped with my brother instead of just breaking up with me. My family have been trying to contact me, but I don't want to speak to them. The few friends we used to have in common are no longer part of my life, so I don't know what to do. That's why Ida helped me send a text to my ex-girlfriend, because I found out that she had disappeared and had been with my brother for the past 5 years without explanation. Update: it's been a week since I posted, and I haven't had time to update again because I've been busy catching up on work. I realized that, even though I texted my ex-girlfriend and asked her to explain, I didn't really do anything wrong. I explained, but I realized that it was all meaningless. She's just a horrible person who betrayed me after being with me for 6 years, went with my brother, and then left without saying goodbye and started a family with him. That's how it happened, and I need to accept that. That's the whole story, as far as I can tell, before she texted back. I don't know how I feel, because it's all so overwhelming, but I feel better now. I'm glad that my ex-girlfriend said what she did, because it made me realize that I got off lightly, because the problem was with her, not me. I gave her all my love, but she preferred my brother to me, and my family obviously preferred him too. Anyway, I had already lost my girlfriend a long time ago, but when I found out about her and my brother, I had to go through it all again, and this time the loss was even greater because I not only lost my girlfriend, but also my family. They betrayed me, and every day for 5 whole years. I swear, I wouldn't wish such suffering on even my worst enemy, because I've literally been torn apart over the past few days. When I told my therapist what had happened, she seemed surprised too. So, it's pretty bad. I still haven't responded to my family, and I think I'm just reading their messages because there's no point in saying anything now. They can't undo what's happened, and I'll never forgive them. I know my mother is sick now, but after everything I've been through, I don't know if I can forgive her. The only thing I can do now is try to look ahead. Update 2. Hi everyone. Today my brother came to my house to try to have a civilized discussion about our situation. He said while waiting outside my house that I was childish and immature because I refused to let him in. It's been 3 whole weeks since I overheard my mom and brother talking and learned the truth. Since then, they've been texting me, trying to get me to talk to them, but I haven't even opened their messages to see what they've said, let alone reply to them. As a last resort, my brother came to talk to me today. I don't even understand why they are so desperate for me to talk to them, because as far as I know, my family only cares about my brother, otherwise they would have been honest with me from the beginning. So there is no need for them to act so desperate now just to prevent me from cutting off ties with them, because I know they don't care about me as much as they do about my brother. My brother has been trying to reason with me. He keeps telling me that he and my ex-husband fell in love when he came home for a visit, and they tried to break up but couldn't, so they had to elope. My parents kept it a secret to spare my feelings. Their plan was that once I had found someone too, I would find out and at least have some emotional support. I don't know why he thought this was better than being honest with me from the start. Imagine if I had actually found someone in the past 5 years and they had confessed the truth to me. It would have definitely ruined the relationship 100%. I was relieved to hear their original plan, as I hadn't found anyone and had discovered the truth myself after a while. Finally, I shouted at him to leave me alone or I would call the police, forcing him to leave, which I really didn't want to do, so he wasn't calm either. Because he stood in the cold for almost half an hour trying to convince me and telling me that the only reason he was trying to get me to talk to him was that our mother was very sorry and that the pressure of me not speaking to them was worsening her health. If mom wasn't sick, he wouldn't even be here to talk to me. He would just go on with his life happily while I struggle with the pain of it all. My brother is a real pain in the ass, but at least he told me before he left that he didn't care if I wanted to talk to him or not, but my mom wanted me to talk to her, and that's why he came. If it wasn't for my mom, he would have even made his wife and son come here just to embarrass me. It really made me feel bad, and I almost wanted to open the door and beat him to a pulp, but I resisted. I told him to go to hell, and he cursed at me, and I did my best to hold back my hands. Then he left, and I kept watching Netflix to distract myself, but I just couldn't get his mocking voice out of my head. I can't believe my family could be so cruel. They cheated on me, lied to me, betrayed me, and now he shows up at my doorstep just to mock my pain. I don't know what to do about my mother's situation, although I obviously don't want her health to deteriorate, no matter what they did to me. Maybe I have to find a chance to talk to her because I don't want to feel guilty if her condition worsens. I'm sure that if that happens, my family won't let me off the hook. They'll hold me responsible, so I might visit her when my brother and father are not at home. Update 3. Hey guys, I finally met and spoke to my mother yesterday, and I'm really excited now, because ever since I saw her, I've made her promise to Dad and me to amend our respective wills and leave most of our assets to me. I've heard that if they leave me all their assets, my brother might contest the will, so I have to make sure they leave him as little as possible. It took me a long time to persuade her, But I made it clear to my mother that I would only agree to keep in touch with her if she promised me this, otherwise she could forget ever speaking to me again. I had to fight very hard for it, but she finally agreed, and our family lawyer will be here the day after tomorrow so that I can witness the changes to the will myself. Guess what a secret it will be, and I will keep it that way for a long time. My parents kept secrets from me for my brother's sake, but now the situation is about to reverse. He will know what it feels like to be betrayed by your own family, simply because they want to favor one brother over the other. This is me, but they didn't care about my feelings when they covered up my brother's extramarital affair with his girlfriend, so I don't think I owe them any kindness or compassion at all, and neither of them owes me anything. This is also important because my parents are relatively wealthy, and we're talking about a considerable sum of money. I finally feel like I got him back and got him good. People say that living well is the best revenge, but that's a bit of a stretch. When I saw my mother yesterday, I wondered what would happen. I didn't really have a plan, and I didn't know what to expect, but at least my brother and my father weren't home. As soon as I walked in, my mother burst into tears, embraced me, and apologized, saying she regretted her actions deeply. But that didn't mean anything to me. I felt empty and numb, and even though she was crying, I was consoling her out of habit, not love. She later admitted that she and my father had always known about their affair, because one night they found my ex-husband in his room with my brother when he was visiting my girlfriend, and we had been together for almost 4 years by then. So it was 2 years before they eloped. I was in the other room and I knew nothing, but my brother begged them to keep it a secret, and they agreed because they knew they were in love and they were going to tell me, but they just couldn't find the right moment. Then I decided to tell my parents I was getting engaged, and they told my brother, and within a few days they had arranged for a flight for my girlfriend to move to Canada and completely avoid the proposal, while I went around like a madman looking for her. And they warned all their relatives and friends and anyone who might speak to me never to mention the whereabouts of my ex-husband. That was how they made sure I would never find out. I must say, my family was very good at acting. If I could, I would nominate them all for an Oscar, because they played the perfect parents, comforting me day and night, pretending to be there for me, secretly attending my brother's wedding and baby shower, and going on vacation all the time. But only to visit my brother and my ex-husband, and then they would Photoshop themselves into other places just to trick me. They went to such extremes and were so crazy to deceive me. Now, my mother is telling me the truth just to get me to forgive her, but in fact it makes me even more depressed and angry. So I gave her a little of what I was thinking, and then told her that now if she wants to compensate me, she has to change her will. It was an idea that came to me suddenly when she told me about their secret life. I knew that even if I didn't have the emotional support system I wanted, I could at least demand financial compensation, so I did. And soon, very soon, I will inherit 90% of my parents' estate, while my brother will get nothing. I will obviously still completely cut him off, and I told my mother, who is the only person I'm willing to keep in touch with, just because she's sick, and she's not happy about it, but she should be happy that at least after all the things they did to me. I agreed to talk to her, although I might change my mind later, I don't know. All I know is that my brother and his ex-wife are a perfect match, and I deserve better, so that's what I'm going to find now. I don't need any explanations from either of them anymore. I'm done.